Hi, Misha here, and today I want to talk about a very unique lightsaber, or rather, Darksaber in Star Wars, the titular Darksaber. In universe and in the real world, it's interesting history. It first appeared in the series Rebels, and then reappeared live action with the Mandalorian. So, let's talk about it. The dark sword, or dark saber, is a unique type of lightsaber created by Tar Vizsla, and he was the first and so far only Mandalorian in the Jedi Order, so he crafted a very unique blade. It was built around 1050 BBY, and we know it was in use by 1030, and he would carry it until his death, and then it would be put into the Jedi Temple. But it was quickly stolen back by his ancestors, his descendants, and House Vizsla, and became kind of the symbol of the rule of Mandalore. Whoever had it, who won it in combat, or inherited it from their father, was the rightful ruler. And in the series, we know several. We don't actually have a pre-Vizsla figure in the Black Series, but I brought out the heavy Mandalorian because he is still played by Jon Favreau, so why not? He can represent House Vizsla. Once the peaceful Mandalorians with the Duchess came on, the Darksaber kind of fell into the hands of Death Watch. And so Pre-Vizsla would have it, and Paz Vizsla here would later try to get it, but wouldn't. And after fighting with Maul, it would go to the Zabrak, which some did not accept, including Bo-Katan here. And Maul would use it in several instances and eventually take it to Dathomir, where it would be found by Sabine Wren in Rebels. And after some back and forth, it would be given to Bo-Katan, who would have it for a few years trying to reunite Mandalore during the Imperial era. But things would not go to plan, and the Empire would capture it after the Purge of Mandalore, the Night of a Thousand Tears, which is how Gus Fring, yes I know, ended up with it, and that's where it reappears in the Mandalorian series, although it's clear that Bo-Katan knows that Gus Fring has it. Okay, Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon fights Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, with it, eventually losing, and that ends up in the hands of him. Here it is here. And though he tries to give it to Bo-Katan, the Moff tells him that it has to be won in combat. You can't give it away. So as of Boba Fett and the beginning of Season 3 of Mandalorian, he is the wielder of it, and thus could be considered the rightful ruler of Mandalore. Taken out of his hand here, you can see that it's a long hilt with a bent upward crossguard and a very unique saber-style blade. This actually harkens back to some of the early vibro blades and force sabers and swords. There were some kind of various things often used by the Sith, although this is not inherently a dark weapon. But it does kind of harken back to an older style of energy blade. So here it is in the 1/12 scale, but let's blow it up a bit. From this to standard, more or less full size. Here we have the one from LGT, NeoPixel with a Xenopixel 2 core, full controls, and standard, even though it's a very interesting thing. Now, in universe, this hilt is actually made of Beskar, so it's a lightsaber resistant material, which actually makes sense because of the crossguard. Interestingly, when Din Djarin and Moff Gideon fight, it's clear that the Darksaber itself cannot cut through a Beskar. It is a two-handed weapon, but slim enough you can use it with one. Obviously, it lasts a long time because it's 1,000 years old. Still works. And hence, by the name, it's a black or dark blade with just kind of energy sparking off of it. So how does that work with a NeoPixel blade? Well, it's never going to be perfect, I'm not going to lie. And there are a few different ways to do it. So let's first light this up, show you in the dark, and then we'll come to the table and show you how the blade attaches and works in the light, and you can see if you think it's adequate and, how you would manage it yourself. And then you can tell me who you think should rule Mandalore. Interesting mythology, I'll give it that. It's also probably one of the few energy sabers, we'll call it, that is not really primarily identified with the Jedi, at least not any longer. Let's get to it, and I would say light it up, but I don't know, dark it up? So, quite different from previous sabers. This is in pretty standard mode. The Darksaber itself is a quieter saber even in universe. Than others. Let's see here what they've done. That's one ignition type. Let's change it up a bit.
Stack ignition.
There's probably no one right way or wrong way to do this because...
Rainbow blade.
Okay, well maybe this. Rainbow dark sword.
Candy blade.
Might actually look pretty cool for this one, I'm not sure.
Unstable.
I think this is pretty close to the default, although the ignition's a little different. The seizure blade.
Photon ignition.
Different ignition.
Cracked blade.
So kind of a flickery solid.
Warp ignition. Fire blade.
Not quite as bad as the seizure blade, at least. Probably another pretty good option for this.
Steady.
And this is just normal. Thankfully for motion controls.
Pulse. Rainbow blade.
Let me try something here.
Phaser ignition. Candy blade. Scavenger ignition. Hunter ignition.
Of course, you can set a lot of this
Standard blade.
on the ignitions.
Unstable. Blaster blade.
course, it's just going to be quiet. This one's kind of interesting.
Ghost blade.
I think somehow Ghost Blade kind of works for this. Of course, it's going to be completely dark unless you move it, but when you move it, it kind of gives that modified effect. And you can add extra effects to that.
Cracked blade.
Let's try one different.
Fire blade.
So Ghost Fire. Maybe in some ways this is a better one. And of course you can always change the colors too. So what do you think? Let's take it on the table and you'll see what it looks like when it's turned off. So here's the hilt you've seen, and here is the blade installed. Comes to a point, and it is a specialized, well, this is pretty much specialized everything with this saber. It's held in with 4 screws, 2 on each side, so very secure. It does have this little plate here. The hilt itself is a good chunk of the length, two-handed for sure. In universe, it is a shorter blade, around 34 inches. And this is a 32-inch blade, so it might be a little bit shorter, or maybe not, hard to say. In universe, it's 2.5 to 3 inches wide, and, inch deep. Pretty narrow blade. And it does have this pointed edge. And of course it does have a unique black hued kyber crystal. What do you think? And of course, in addition to the features I showed you, you can always change the color to anything. There's different hues of white, maybe blue. I don't know. You could definitely have fun with it. So pretty much what they did was just kind of paint and pattern the sides, giving it a little bit of a crackly energy blade. Even for Hollywood, doing this would be somewhat challenging. The Black Series, the Hasbro version, actually has separate plastic pieces with LEDs, but it's a shorter blade, a little bit fatter. The light's a little dimmer. Of course, you don't have all the effects. What I found with it, because there are 3 sections kind of put together, they kind of separate and wiggle around a bit. This is at least one piece. And the Hasbro, it's kind of based more on the Rebels hilt. This is based more on the Mandalorian hilt. Longer with this style of crossguard here. And this is a little bit different. Even in the show, the prop the actors used was somewhat fragile. So it's no surprise that this is not dueling worthy. This is a display, kind of a demo exhibition type blade. Not really a way to duel with it because of just, its shape and everything else. But I do like unique, interesting things. So what do you think? And which mode, which setting would you go with, and in which color? Let me know. Let's discuss in the comments. And with that, let's wrap this video up. And we end with the blade pulled out. It's got the typical pin connections. They are unidirectional, so you're not going to put it in wrong. And our hilt here. Even though it is all metal, it's quite light. Very cylindrical. Fits well in the hand. Because of the kind of somewhat oblong shape, motion controls are a little less intuitive on it than a standard saber. And the button is reasonably recessed. You're not going to accidentally hit it. It's got this patterning in front of it, so you know when you're getting close to it. I've never accidentally hit it. Sometimes this guard or hilt can get a little loose. It's just held on by a little screw. Also, this panel holds it on a little bit, so you can tighten that up. Disassembling. If you just want to charge it, there's screws in the bottom. It's easy to get to the charge port, but if you want to actually disassemble it, it's a little more involved to get to the battery to pull it out, or the SD card. Not too bad, but you'll need 2 different size drivers. So just sharing. But I do feel like overall this is superior to the Black Series one. And with that, who do you think should have the Dark Sword? Back to House Vizsla, Bo-Katan, or Din Djarin, the Mudhorn clan. Or maybe you just want to see total chaos and give it back to Gus Fring. That would be an interesting choice. But yeah, since this is an interesting saber with an interesting history, love it or hate it, it is one of a kind, and it's kind of cool that LGT and others have done it, because it does require pretty much special everything. Most everything else uses a common blade type and even a common core. About the only thing standard in this is the battery, some of the connecting pins and screws. So, hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And feel free to comment below. This is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.